I'm bringing up Superfan here because there was two tragedies this week, and it really goes along the lines of what Superfan alluded to before about the importance of mentoring youth, because sometimes when someone doesn't have a person to mentor them in their life, tragedies happen. Aaron Hernandez, 27-year-old former football player with the New England Patriots, committed suicide this week. It's really, the whole story is a tremendous tragedy. Went to the University of Miami, was drafted in the 4th round by the Patriots, played 3 years with the Patriots, was considered one of the best tight ends in football. The Patriots had just signed him to a $40 million extension. He was engaged to get married, lived in a $5 million mansion in North Attleboro, and he was convicted of murdering Odin Lloyd. And after spending a couple of years in prison, and a true irony of the whole situation, on the day the Patriots were going to the White House to celebrate the Super Bowl victory, Aaron Hernandez hung himself in the jail cell. And I later learned that the timing of it had nothing to do with the suicide. He had been planning the suicide for several days. He had given out several of his belongings to inmates at the prison. He left a couple of suicide notes. So this is something he'd been planning. But Superfan, I read a lot about Aaron Hernandez, and one of the things that made his life spiral in the wrong direction is when he was a senior in high school in Connecticut, his father passed away. And his father really was the rock of his existence. They had a very close relationship, and after his father died, he got in with a very bad crowd, and a lot of those problems remained when he went to the University of Florida. And he had so many problems in college, every team in the NFL took him off the draft, and the only team that left him on was the Patriots, and obviously what happened. But he got in with the wrong crowd. It was said that during his time away from football, he was deeply involved in drugs. The drugs made him very paranoid. And why don't you continue on what you've heard and read, and to talk about, specifically about Aaron Hernandez not having a mentor figure in his life. If he had you in your life, maybe he'd still be here and he wouldn't have making a lot of wrong decisions. But talk about how not having a mentor in his life led to so many bad decisions.
Well, it's usually twofold, but there's something hidden where make it threefold. One, you can take a person away from the streets, but that doesn't mean the streets don't go away from them. And as you know, many famous, especially athletes, they got hanger-oners. Mike Tyson had that, where people manipulate and hang on and sort of are locusts and want you to be real. Their conception of real, of course, is thug, criminal, not real assets to society. Aaron Hernandez obviously couldn't get away from that, and he chose the thug life, and he thought he could do both. He did not have a good role model, a surrogate parent, and his street people ended up his mentors, and it caused his destruction. In doing what Howie does and I do in counseling, suicide prevention, it's usually very, very complex. Why a person would be that desperate and despondent to do himself in, which is, as we know, a very selfish act that ruins communities, families, neighborhoods, and hurts other people, and some people regard the easy way out. And we couldn't understand, since he just was vindicated, supposedly on this other murder charge, why it happened right away. Well, Newsweek came out with a big article. I happened to hear this morning Mike Lupica and the rest of them on the sports reporters mention that the article revealed that, what is his name, Odin Lloyd, the one that he killed, and he's the victim and his family's the victim, not Aaron Hernandez, but as we all know, knew that he was living a double life. And this society, even though it's more acceptable to be gay, and when you're leading a double life in football, nobody has come out except ex-players. Not one person has come out. So now the fact that this particular person became an enemy to him because he had goods on him that could destroy his reputation, his machismo, his manhood with other football players, he, in a very foul, evil way, decided to off him. And I don't know if this is 100% fact. The article is somewhat speculation, but maybe you can understand why. If the article, he knew the article was coming out, maybe that was one of the reasons he decided to off himself and the reason he killed the victim.
Yeah, terrible tragedy. And then we had another tragedy this week. And sadly, it's so common with child actor stars. So many of them, their lives spiral downward. And you go back this week, Erin Moran, 56 years old. We all know her from Joni on Happy Days and then Joni and Chachi. And her life was really way down. After Happy Days, she had a hard time getting roles, and she ended up overdosing on heroin. She was living in a trailer. She suffered through terrible bouts of depression. So here again, depression, drug abuse, and I'm sure from those bad choices that she did not have the role models and the mentors in her life.
It's amazing when somebody has fame and there's an idol at a young age, and we all say, wow, what a great life. Look at the notoriety, look at the publicity, but you never know what's going on behind the scenes. The enemy within is many times yourself. And even though you have fame to the fans, in reality, if you don't have people to guide you or intervene or give you tough love at a particular time, you gravitate to instant gratification, which of course is drugs, getting lit up, getting effed up, whatever, and just relieving short-term anxiety and stress and not sacrificing the short term for the long term, but you get addicted and your soul gets depraved and you lose complete perspective about values. And it seems in this particular case where she crossed the line and there was a point of no return.
Yeah, it's sad, and I really wanted to point this out because, the Aaron Hernandez story, and the real tragedy is that he leaves behind a 4-year-old girl who will never see her father again, and obviously the young man that he killed. But it's just an example of not making the right choices,
That's what it's about.
not having a mentor in your life, not having someone you can go to, and that's why it's so important for what you do, because you're able to reach someone who are going through rough times and turn them around and give them direction and a positive role model. And I think the bottom line is you really save lives. And you and Purist and many people you're affiliated with, you've saved lives. Because if it wasn't for you at that critical juncture in their lives, they wouldn't have made the right choices and turned their lives around.
Well, it has to be the right person, meaning, as my buddy and my surrogate son, Fresh Prince, aptly said, you have to have trust. He had a person that was trying to be a role model but gave him wrong advice, and he just went back to what he was doing with the street life or negative choices. What you said is choices. If you have a person in life or any support system, a group of people, whether it's family, a teacher, a counselor, a religious person that you can look up to, and they motivate you to guide yourself and make better choices, there's always that impact. And some people just say, F it, it's too much for me, I don't care anymore. When you get to that point, there's a potential suicide or drug abuse or whatever. But if you sacrifice the mentor, that is, and give extra time, not only what's required by whatever job you have, but to be able to bond or connect with the person and relate to them where they trust you and they see a light at the end of the tunnel, you can save people.
And finally, I think it's important to make this point. Whenever we hear of a suicide of a famous person, it happened a lot when Robin Williams took his life. It's so important to stress, and I can't stress it strong enough, that suicide is never the answer. And if you're in the throes, or if you know someone in the throes of severe depression, anxiety, tell them to call 911. tell them to call, like here in Long Island Crisis Center, or any crisis center in your community to get help. And if you know anyone who's going through severe depression or anxiety, don't take it lightly. Make them get help immediately.
You're 100% right, because there's that point, if you delay, it could be too late. And that's when you have to surround the people that can help, got to jump into it. And unfortunately, it could be the middle of the night or whatever, but depends the type of person you are. I have a lot of ex-students who have my phone number, and they know that if they have a problem and it's that acute, you don't have to wait for working hours. And since I'm in the private sector now, and sometimes somebody believing in them. I was on the phone today with somebody who just lost a godfather, and she was very, very depressed. And I'll be counseling her tomorrow, and just said, "You made me feel better. I feel now maybe I have some hope." And it's not me. It's anybody who gives themselves their spirit and love to the person that is frustrated and has nowhere to turn and doesn't feel life is worth living.
No, I really want to thank you for sharing. And again, Rocco and I are going to be proud to attend the event next Saturday night.
Appreciate it.
In Forest Hills. We'll be there. You're a super fan.
Well-
Great friend, great person.
Well, a greater person, because what he's done for Long Beach, what he's done for drug addicts, what he's done for suicide, what he's done for autism is nonpareil. Let's hear it for the person that we all came here for.
All right, thank you.
All right.